Hi, hello, and welcome, and it's really nice to be with you. I'm just going to ask at the beginning for you to just be a little bit generous with this recording because my street has been incredibly busy and I've made a number of attempts to get started with recording over the last 2 or 3 days, but I just haven't been able to do it. So today it seems to have settled down a little bit. You'll still hear some noise, but hopefully it won't be as loud and as distracting as it has been before. So I just want to start off with what we've got coming, and it's going to be, there's been a lot of chatter about what's coming up with this new moon on the 26th as the new moon in Sagittarius. So I really want to be talking about that. We've got Venus entering Capricorn the day before on the 25th. And then Neptune goes direct in Pisces on the 27th. So you can see we've got a lot happening, and we've got a lot we really need to be thinking about. And then all of this, we will be starting some changes, but we'll actually, and this is what I spoke to you about before last time, we'll be actually starting to implement the changes. So a lot of our thinking has changed, and now we're really coming into a time of implementing the changes. So we're going to see things come into being, whereas before it was coming into awareness and coming into understanding, and now it's coming into being. And I just want us to be really thinking about how all of that's going to work for us and what are the changes we need to make. Now, Venus is going to enter Capricorn. Capricorn is one of the signs very much to do with Earth. So this is all about how we show up in this physical plane. And Venus is also a planet of expansion, but it's also, they call it the planet of love, and that's quite true. But it's fundamentally the planet of value. So love is important because that's how a lot of us get our sense of value. But there's other ways that we get a sense of value, and that's from our job, that's from our reputation. And because we've chosen to have a physical experience on this plane, it's also about money, because money is the currency that happens to make, well, the world go round in the reality of this plane. Love is also really important, do not get me wrong, but the focus for Venus in Capricorn is about finances. And finances is, in most of us, about how we work, where we work, and how we make our living. So, and that for a lot of us is how we show up, because how we make our living, what we do with that living, people make a lot of judgments about who we are and our value to society based on what we do for a living. And that is unbelievably true. I'm not going to say that I agree with it. This is not my point of view, but I think we all agree this is how the world sees us. So this is something we need to be taking into consideration. So it's going to get quite serious. This is a very serious time. So we're really going to be thinking about how we show up and the changes we want to make, how we enact our learning from the past into the reality of the now and the future. And this is what this is about. So a lot of the work that we've been doing in the past, we're now going to see coming forward, and we're going to go, okay, this is now what I want to do in my work, this is how I want to do it, and making those changes. The new moon that we're going to have in Sagittarius is going to be quite an interesting moon for a lot of people. And we're calling it the moon of chaotic. It's chaotic change and rebellion. And it's going to link, and the reason for this is because this new moon is going to link really strongly. So it's going to be working with, it's going to be triggered by, heavily influenced by Mars opposite Uranus. So Mars is this really power, it's heat, it's the god of war, it's action, it's going forward, it's very active. That's Mars. And it's also linking with Uranus, which is also really active. And Uranus is one of those planets that can quickly change things for you. and it will change things for you, and that's what it does. And it's not necessarily the nicest planet when it makes those changes because of the dramatic drama, the chaos that a rapid, unexpected change can cause. So we've got a new moon, which is something which is ending something and preparing to begin something else major. And it's being triggered by Mars, which is go for it, power, movement, and Uranus, which is also power, movement, but rapid change. So you can see why some people are referring to it as the new moon of chaos, change, and it's also rebellion. And what's interesting about this new moon is that it's the last new moon before December 26th, where there's going to be a solar eclipse. So this is really us getting very, very ready to make physical changes in our life, physical changes to how we're living our life and how we're showing up. So there's going to be a build of energy that's going to be triggered by this new moon, and it's going to be looking at us to change or be changed. So we're either going to be moving with the change and getting ready to make the changes ourselves, or the changes might very well just be made for you out of the blue. Most of us have been doing a lot of work in the past, and those people who've been working with me either via the videos or personally getting in contact with me, we've been getting ourselves ready to really make physical changes, and we are ready to do that. So we'll be really in a good place to work with these changes that are going to come up. And being Uranus, they'll be a little bit unexpected. But they will be what we've been perhaps secretly asking for, and maybe even secretly preparing ourselves for. And sometimes that's got to do with it's a dream or a wish we've had, but we haven't felt able to really pursue that for whatever reason because something's been holding us back. And in this context, that's often been a self-belief or a habitual aspect of our lives, and we are now getting ready to shed that. And to shed that with a corresponding change in our behavior. So Scorpio is, and what's interesting about this change that's about to be happening is that we're going to have the, how to say this, the change and where all this is happening is in the claws of Scorpio. So it's right at the end of Scorpio. And what's interesting about this is that the claws are the strongest part. Remember the claws, and they are the access part. So the actual movement of where the stars and the alignments are going to be positioned are right in the claws of Scorpio. So you can see this is a pincher, right? And sometimes cutting something is fabulous because it sets us free. And if we're ready for it, the release is gorgeous. But sometimes cutting, when we're not ready for it, can be a little bit painful. But I am backing you to be ready for it. And we're going to have a couple of weeks to really start to make things come into place and come into being. And we've got to be thinking about alternatives, because that's what Uranus is about. We've got to be thinking new. We've got to be thinking and just thinking about how to enact stuff. And it's got to be quite strategic, because this is really setting us up for long term. This Venus and this new moon is all setting us up in a long-term focus, and I think that's really interesting. Now, Neptune has been retrograde. It's going to go direct in Pisces, so that's going to bring all of the planets now will be coming into going direct, which is a big sigh of relief because they've all been going, many of them have been going retro all at the same time. Neptune is the planet of spirituality, dreams, and also the illusions. But let's just park the illusions for a bit and think about the spirituality, love, and the dreams. When you combine that with Venus going into Capricorn and Uranus being all about secret desires in many ways, you can see that on the 27th we're going to get this extra bit of push for us to really want to go for what we want to go for and to make the changes that we really want to make. Now remember, change is not, okay, the relationship around change can be like this. The trigger point for change can be like this. But the other thing that can happen is that the change itself, us physically being able to make the change, always takes longer. So the energetic and the spiritual world moves much quicker than the physical world. It always leads the physical world. So we're preparing. Now it begins to action, and it's like, okay, let's think about how I go about making this change. And it may take a while for us to enact that, but we're going to be put under pressure to start. We might also find we're feeling a little bit irritable, because one of the things about change when you desire it is you get really impatient for it to happen. So we might be feeling just a tad irritable wanting that to take place. Now, Pisces with Neptune is about, Neptune is going into its Pisces. Neptune is the ruling planet for Pisces, so it's very comfortable there. It's very relaxed there. We're going direct, so that's very nice. So it's going to be about love. And the other thing that's going to be happening is some aspects of love will be finishing, because the retrograde was there to help us look at those things that we may or may not want anymore in our life. And now we're going to be going forward, and we've done some review, most of us, on our relationships and how we relate to people and how we want to relate to people and how they're relating to us. And very much we could see that the changes that take place will be around our relationships. And one of those relationships, of course, will be our relationship to money, but it will be also our relationships to love and value, and relationships to other people. So it's going to be a time for us to be building, enjoying building, and going forward and making this change to happen. So the only two things to be aware of is we might be a little bit irritable, and the other thing to be just a tad aware of with Neptune and also with Uranus is we might get this feeling of illusions. But any illusions that we have, trust me, they are soon going to be undermined, stripped back, and we are going to see the truth of it. So that's what's going to be happening with this new moon. You're in a great position to really take new things forward and really change how you show up on the physical plane. Okay, tarot coming up soon. Bye-bye.